One of the biggest fears that I hear from smart, purpose driven practitioners and coaches is, what if I spend all of this time creating an online program and nobody buys it? How do I make an online program that people actually want to buy? And it's a really good question. And if you're anything like me, making this transition from offering individual sessions where I charged by the hour to creating a curriculum based content was challenging. It was really challenging to wrap my mind around at first. It's definitely a different way of working with clients or patients, that's for sure. But when you have a formula, when you have the steps that I'm going to share with you in this video, it's really not as overwhelming or time consuming as you might think. So in this training, I am going to walk you through the 4 steps to create an online program, curriculum, or methodology, as I like to call it, that people want to buy, and also make sure that you avoid the all too common mistakes that a lot of practitioners and coaches make. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. Hello. I am Lori Kennedy. I am the founder of the Wellness Business Hub, and we specialize in working with practitioners and coaches who are just getting started online to create their online program and online business so that they can transform lives for a living all on their own terms. And if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that bell so that you get notified of any of the new trainings that get published. And if you haven't taken the quiz yet to determine which of the 4 types of online programs is best for you based on your professional training, based on your goals, you can find the link in the description below. It is a very short quiz and you will get a personalized recommendation, again, based on your goals and your experience. So now, let's talk about how to create a program curriculum, or as I like to call it, a methodology that ensures that you feel confident about getting your clients results and so that people want to work with you. It really felt hard to wrap my mind around because there were so many questions. What if a client had this, and what if a client had that, and what if they needed specialized support, and how was I going to put everything that I knew inside of a 10 to 15 minute training that they were going to get once a week? It's definitely a different way of working with clients or patients, that's for sure. But when you have the right steps to take and you actually have instructions to follow and you have a blueprint for creating curriculum, for creating your own methodology, it's really not as time consuming as you might think that it is. So here's the thing about having an online program. When a client chooses to work with you, they are doing so not because they want to buy time with you. They are investing in the outcome that your program will provide to them. They are investing in results. They have chosen your program, possibly without ever even having a conversation with you, because they're hoping that your program kills their pain. They're hoping that your program provides a solution to their problem. They're not looking for general information about wellness or nutrition or fitness or life coaching. If they wanted to be educated, they would have taken the same course as you. They aren't interested in learning for the sake of learning. They're not nerds like us, right? They have a painful problem that they are looking for a solution. Your clients are not paying you to learn. They are paying you to get rid of their problems so that they feel better. Selling them information, selling them education, it doesn't work. And that's why most people have price objections. It's because the value that you are communicating to them is valuable to you in the form of education, but it's not valuable to the client. They don't want to be educated. They want to be told what to do so that they no longer have to feel or experience the things that they are feeling or experiencing. So therefore, your methodology, your curriculum needs to be designed in a way that actually gets the client results, not just educates them. And when you do that, and when you communicate that, then you're going to have prospects who want to work with you because it's very obvious that you have created an online program that is designed to get rid of the person's pain, because that's what they're investing in, right? They're paying you money to get rid of the problem that they are experiencing. So, step one, I've already said this word a number of times. Step one in the 4 steps to creating program curriculum that people want to buy. Step one is identify the persistent, painful problem. Before we go and talk about what you're going to name your program, before we go and talk about what you're going to charge, before we go and design a logo and we do anything on social media, the very first step in creating your methodology, in creating your program curriculum, is to identify the persistent, painful problem that your program targets. Maybe it's adult acne, maybe it's IBS, maybe it's persistent shoulder pain, maybe it's painful periods, or food obsession, or anxiety, or exhaustion, or people pleasing. Based on your personal experience and your professional training, what one specific problem can you solve for people? And it has to be persistent. It can't be something that they have sometimes. And the reason is because they will seek you out when they are in the middle of the problem. And if it's not persistent and if it's not painful enough, that problem goes away and they will bail on the webinar. They will bail on the call because they're not having that problem. They're having a good day. And when they're having a good day, they don't need to talk to you. And so we want to make sure that when we are choosing a painful problem, that we recognize that it is persistent, that it is something that they experience on a consistent, ongoing basis. Based on my experience working with thousands of practitioners and coaches, this step one, choosing a persistent, painful problem, is the stumbling block. This is where you need a lot of coaching. This is where you need to be able to talk through your choice. This is where a lot of practitioners and coaches get stuck. They don't know what to pick. And when they do, sometimes it's not a persistent, painful problem. Let me give you an example. Bloating versus constant diarrhea. And I know that might be a little uncomfortable, but bloating is not a persistent, painful problem. It is painful sometimes, but it's not painful enough. And it's definitely not persistent or pervasive, right? Being bloated doesn't stop somebody from attending a meeting at work. Being bloated doesn't stop somebody from going to a social event. I mean, it can, of course, because maybe they're uncomfortable, but not in the way that constant diarrhea does, right? Not in that way. Bloating might be uncomfortable, yes, but it is not persistent or painful enough that it is deteriorating somebody's quality of life to the point where they throw their hands up in the air and say, I can no longer live like this, right? I can't take this anymore. I refuse to live this way. I'm missing out on this, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, right? You can still go on vacation and be bloated. You can still attend a wedding and be bloated. You can do life while being bloated, but you can't do life when you're stuck in the bathroom, right? Where you're having, horrible digestive system cramping, right? There's a difference between being bloated and having constant bathroom situations that really are controlling your life, right? And so maybe for you, the example isn't, anything to do with the digestive system. Maybe it could be, about adult, not having a relationship with their adult children, or the thing that they can no longer, take anymore, the thing that they refuse to live this way about, maybe is um, their child's ADHD and behavior. Could be about their knee pain, could be about their migraines. But you have an ideal client that is saying, I can't take this anymore. I refuse to live this way. I can't do one more day like this. What is that persistent, painful problem? The feeling of, I can't live like this, that is the motivator. It's like the almost rock bottom, right? That is the motivator that causes them to seek a solution. And then your program pops into their social media feed. Now, before you say to me, okay, Lori, but I can help so many people with so many different things, I know. And that's because we were taught to work with anyone and everyone. We were taught a little bit about a lot of things. And if you're used to working one-to-one with clients in an offline setting, you're used to working in this very reactive way where a client or a patient comes in to work with you and you do a little bit of an intake, and they've bought time with you. They've bought a session with you because you are a naturopathic doctor and can help them with the thing that they're, dealing with. They have a painful problem, right? They have a painful problem. They're not just there to pick your brain about naturopathic medicine. They're there because they have a persistent, painful problem that they believe that you, as the naturopathic doctor, or you as the massage therapist, or you as the speech therapist, or you as the nutrition coach, can solve for them. And the biggest sort of difference between working in that way in an offline context, selling individual sessions, and working in an online context is that offline, people are coming to you because of your professional title, thinking that your professional title and education can solve their persistent, painful problem. And therefore, you see anyone and everyone, and there's no sort of area of specialization. Versus in the online context, your area of specialization leads the way. People are attracted to you not because of your professional title, not because you're a naturopath. It's because you specialize in solving IBS as a naturopath, right? Your professional designation now is secondary to the persistent painful problem that you solve. And so when you lead with the persistent painful problem, that's a tongue twister, the persistent painful problem that you solve, now people are attracted to you and want to work with you because they see you as the expert who can help them with IBS, not necessarily as a life coach or as a massage therapist or as a naturopath who may or may not have experience in the particular thing that they are struggling with. And so that's the biggest difference. And this is why step one, identifying a persistent painful problem, is the most important thing that we can do when we're trying to create methodology and use that methodology inside of an online program that then people want to buy. And so I want you to think about what is the thing that the audience, that your clients just can't deal with anymore, right? What is that? What is the biggest struggle that is deteriorating their quality of life, either at work, at home, from a self-worth perspective, right? What is that? And if you feel so inclined, drop it in the comments below so I can give you some feedback. So now that we've identified the specific painful problem that you can solve, we're going to move to step two, which is to identify the ideal client journey. So remember this, people are not paying you to educate them. Again, if they wanted to be educated, they would go and read the textbooks that you have read. They are not paying to learn. They are paying to get a result. They are paying to have access to your methodology that is then going to give them a result And in order for them to get that desired outcome, in order for them to get that result, they need to do certain things. And so we need to understand what their starting point is and what their desired outcome is. So, what is their persistent, painful problem starting point? And what is their desired outcome end point? And so now we have this gap between where they are and what they want, right? And how they get to this endpoint is through your methodology. And so we can now, it becomes very clear that if you were to simply educate them on what their problem is, we're going to continue with the IBS example. If you were to educate them on IBS, and you were to educate them on the digestive system, and you were to educate them on liver detox, and you were to educate them on the nervous systems and, rest and digest, and they knew all of that, would they be able to get a result? No, they wouldn't, because knowing something and doing something are very different, right? We all know that fast food is not ideal. We all know that we need to drink water. We all know that we need to sleep X number of hours. Everybody knows they need to move their body, but doing is an entirely different scenario. And so step number 2 in creating a program, curriculum, or methodology that people want to buy is understanding the starting point and the end point so that you can get them to do the things that they need to do so that they can walk across the bridge and get to their destination, right? Because they're here, point A, and they want to get here, point B, and they don't know how to cross the bridge. They've been trying, right? Maybe they tried a variety of different things that maybe they worked for a little while. Maybe, maybe they did get some relief or some results for a little while, but the fact that they are still in your world, the fact that they have followed you on social media, the fact that they've potentially subscribed to your lead magnet, and are now on your email list, the fact that they're potentially inside of your Facebook group tells you that they are still struggling. They have raised their hand and said, will you help me? I'm here. I'm paying attention, right? Will you help me? And so that very fact alone tells you that they are still struggling with the persistent, painful problem, right? And so the pain of their problem is motivating them to change, right? And they're coming to you and they're saying, how are you going to help me get results? How are you going to help me to feel better? And you're going to explain the how. And the how is what you do inside of your online program. You're like, absolutely, this is how we're going to get results. And you're going to walk them through the pillars of the program. You're going to walk them through the stages of the program, because you, as the professional, you have now created this step-by-step method for them to go from their persistent, painful problem to their desired outcome endpoint. You have created a step-by-step method that will help deliver the transformation. And so I hope you can see that this is why it's so important to start with the persistent, painful problem. Think about it as your anchor, right? If you didn't have this starting point and you didn't know what the end point was, there's very little chance of you being able to structure a method. You're not going to know the steps to give to your client in order for them to get to where they want to go. And so now we're talking about, okay, we have the starting point and we have the desired endpoint, and they need to be very specific. What is something that your ideal client desires to experience in the absence of their pain? If they no longer experienced their persistent, painful problem, what is a feeling, an experience, an outcome that they want to achieve? When somebody says to you, what can I expect from working with you? You should very clearly be able to say, I'm going to take you from persistent, painful problem to desired outcome. right? To having the opportunity to go on vacation with your family without being afraid to eat, without having to bring your own food, without having to plan out bathroom breaks, like to just being able to relax and enjoy it, knowing that your body is fully supported, as the example. And so now we're going to move on to step 3. So step 3 of creating curriculum or methodology for a program that people want to buy is the action tasks. It's knowing what your ideal client needs to do in order to get the result. What are the specific actions that they need to take and the order that they need to take them in so that they go from point A to point B? Because remember, they're not there to buy education, right? If they wanted to be educated, they would read the textbooks that you've read. Our job as practitioners and coaches is to take all of the intel, is to take all of the research, it's to take all of the experience and condense it down into simple, manageable steps that our clients can take to get the outcome. And again, if you are used to working in an offline context, if you're used to working with clients or patients, this might feel challenging to you because you're used to personalizing the recommendations. You're used to being able to sit across the table from someone and them having, them telling you what's going on and you giving them in the moment recommendations. So my best tip for putting together your action steps for your methodology is to think about the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals that your ideal client needs to take in order to go from point A to point B? Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to quote unquote heal them entirely, because we're not able to go super deep. They don't even have the fundamentals nailed, right? So what are the fundamentals? If you are not able to talk to your ideal client, if they were not able to tell you their personalized challenges from what you know about people who experience this persistent, painful problem, what are the key fundamental things that your ideal clients need to do in order to get a result? If they were not able to talk to you and you were not able to give them personalized recommendations, what would you tell them to do? I want you to do a brainstorm. You can put it on Post-it notes. You can put the Post-it notes up on your wall. I just want you to get all of the things that your ideal client needs to do in order to go from point A to point B, right? That is then mapping out the client transformational journey. And so when we look at the action tasks, then you can say to yourself, okay, are these musts or are these nice? Right? Are these nice to have? Like, is it nice for the ideal client to do X, Y, and Z? But what are the big dominoes that if they just did these 8 things, if they just did these 6 things, they would have so much relief, right? They would have so much relief. So think about the action tasks, the things that your ideal client needs to do. That's step 3. Now we're going to go to the last step, step 4. And I think you'll find this interesting that step 4 is the last step, and that is the learning modules. So after you've created your action tasks, now we can talk about what you're going to teach your clients, right? We're going to do the learning lessons at the very end because the learning lessons support the action tasks. So we want them doing, and we're going to educate them on why they are doing what they are doing. That's all we're going to educate them on. It's, why are you doing this? How is this action going to help you get the desired outcome? Because the learning is there to reinforce the action, not the other way around. And most practitioners and coaches make this mistake. They slam everything they know into the online program, thinking that the more tips and the more education and the more science and the more references and the more theory they add into the online program curriculum, the more value the client perceives. And nothing could be further from the truth. We want to keep out any extraneous details. We want to keep out anything that they don't know, that they don't need to know in order to get the results. If they don't actually need to know this in order to get the result, we're not going to teach it to them, because the majority of people in this world are already overwhelmed. They're already overwhelmed. Your ideal client is coming to you, and they're already overwhelmed. So we're not going to overwhelm them even more. Our job is to take away the overwhelm. And so we're going to do that by just telling them exactly what they need to do. We're going to explain to them how to do it. We're going to reinforce why they need to do it with some education. And then we're going to coach them through doing it. And when you set up your methodology or your program curriculum that way, people will want to work with you, because you're going to be able to communicate to them why they should, right? When you have a clear, persistent, painful problem and a clear desired outcome, and then you have the methodology that's going to get them from point A to point B, why wouldn't they want to work with you, right? Why wouldn't they? So I really hope that helps clarify how you're going to create your program curriculum in a way that people want to buy from you. Make sure that you leave a comment below with some ideas on your persistent, painful problem so that we can give you feedback. And I will see you next time. Bye.